Free will is like Clash Royale. Okay, what the hell am I talking about? And by the way, if you don't know Clash Royale, don't worry. You don't need to know anything about video games or anything like that for this video. What I want to explain to you guys today is how I actually completely changed my life and basically saved myself from an 8-year-long suicidal, hardcore suicidal depression where I was a loser, I was overweight, I couldn't work more than like half an hour a day. Frankly, I wasn't employed for like a year, and the only thing I was able to do in that year was to apply to like 20 jobs. I didn't have control over my life. And I changed a few things in my life. This was one of the biggest ones, was realizing how free will actually works in practice. So what am I talking about here? First, free will is not an on and off switch. It's not whether we have free will or we don't have free will. Free will is a spectrum. I'll explain a bit more in a second. But second, we have different levels of free will depending on how long we have to react. And I guess my central thesis of this video is basically that we don't really have a lot of free will in the present, but we do have a lot of free will in the future. So let me explain, and I promise this will all make a lot of sense, and this might change your life. I'm dead serious, because it really changed mine. Okay, so here's the basics, okay? The way this works is this is time, okay? And this is the amount of free will that you have. So more specifically, this graph here, this axis is the amount of time that you have to react to something. I guess kind of like how close the action is to the present, okay? So an example here is like a 1 second action would be something like, let's say you're in a club, okay, at a party, and a girl walks up to you and relatively slowly leans in for a kiss. Not like super slowly, not like slow motion, but like relatively slowly, like about a second, right? So the girl walks up to you, she stops in front of you, looks at you in the eye, and then kind of leans in for a kiss. So you have about 1 second to react, something like that, right? Like 1 or 2 seconds. So that's one example. We'll get back to that in a second. A 1 day would be, so whatever happens, happens in this example here, okay? For the sake of argument, let's say that whatever, you kiss the girl, whatever, right? This example here is a little bit different. It's, let's say that thing happened today, okay? Then, okay, I come back home and then I think, damn, whatever, for the sake of argument, I'm going to another party tomorrow because I guess I love partying. And then I think like, damn, I don't know if I want to react like that every time. And I know that I have a party that I'm going to go to tomorrow. And then I have that kind of time to think about it. Okay, so I can kind of think a little bit about what I want to do in advance. Okay, so I may go to another party tomorrow. And then I may go to another party in a week, and I may go to another party in a year. This will all make more sense in a second. Okay, so what am I talking about here? My thesis is that in these cases here, when we don't really have any time to think, it's basically going to be based on instinct, essentially. The way that I like to describe this is like all of us, we have a software inside our minds that, like right this second, you have a software. You have like a bunch of if-elses in your brain that is like, if I'm walking down the street and then a random stranger says, hey dude, wanna fight? Right? We all have a bunch of if-elses and things that we have learned as kids and that we've grown up and we went through a bunch of stuff, and all of that changes the neuron pathways that get reinforced in our brains, right? And so, for example, as a kid, I got in a lot of fights, and I usually picked fights with people who were stronger than me. And what I ended up learning is that it's just not useful. It's just not a good thing to fight random people. And every time I ended up fighting someone random, I always just ended up getting into trouble, and it's just never worth it. So what ended up getting reinforced in my brain is that if a random person wants to fight with me, I should just say no. I should just say, hey man, sorry, I'm just not looking for trouble. Okay, so in practice, how does that actually work? What's going to happen is that's what was reinforced my whole life by all the experiences that I've had. And at this point, if you ask me, if we have a conversation right now, right this second, and you're like, okay, Raf, so let's say you're walking down the street and this happens. What would you like to do? I would tell you, I wish, like I hope that I can react in a way as to say no and to apologize and just say, hey man, sorry, I'm not looking for trouble. That's how I want to act. That's how I'm trying to like train my software, my brain software to act, right? I'm hoping that I can be like that. That's the person I want to be like. And that's the kind of like if else's that I want to set up in my brain. And so then what's going to happen is I have that kind of like my wish, right? What I want to do kind of consciously. But then I also have just some genetic predispositions, maybe, right? Because there's like the 4 F's. So there's fight, flight. People usually only know about fight or flight, but you have fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And those are all very different. And some of that is nature, some of that is nurture. But my point is, there's what I want to do, but there's also going to be some genetic predispositions, and there's also going to be some things that are just kind of like trained, that I was like trained to do in the past. Okay, so like maybe I have some kind of trauma, or just things happen over and over and over, and I like practiced some kind of martial arts or whatever happened, right? So there's going to be basically your genetics that are going to decide some things in how you act. There's going to be what you were trained to do, kind of like what you practiced to do, what you learned as a kid and growing up and whatever. And then there's like your conscious mind of like what you wish you would do. Okay. Now here's the thing. Here's what actually is going to happen in practice. I go out and I'm walking down the street. Guy walks up to me and says, hey dude, wanna fight? Okay. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, frankly. I have like 1 or 2 seconds to decide. And the truth is, I don't have a lot of free will in that second, right? At that very moment, I'm just it's just going to be a combination of like a little bit of free will. I'm going to try to make a rational decision, but like realistically, there's going to be a lot of genetic predisposition. There's going to be some of like how I'm feeling that day. If I'm very stressed, whatever has happened to me in the last like hour is going to decide what my state of mind is and how much cortisol is in my brain or whatever, right? And that's going to have an effect as well. Like if I just had a fight with my girlfriend, maybe I'm really upset and I have a lot of anger in me, and maybe that's going to affect how I reply. And then there's also going to be whatever I was trained to do. So maybe I did a lot of martial arts, and I actually did as a kid. I did a lot of judo as a kid, and my sensei always told us like never ever get in a fight with a random person, and if I ever find out that you guys were in a fight, I'm gonna like, you guys are fucked basically, right? And so all of that is gonna interact in that like 1 or 2 seconds that I have to make a decision, and then a decision is gonna like it's gonna be spat out of my brain, and whatever happens is gonna happen. Okay, I would say in a moment like that, you maybe have like whatever, let's plot it on the graph here. In a like 1 second decision like this, where you don't have a lot of time to think, I maybe have whatever, let's call it 20% free will. Okay? Because all of these other things that I talked about, like my current state of mind, depending on the amount of stress I have, how much sleep I had, that's gonna have a huge effect. And then there's maybe like 20% of consciousness that I can have. Okay? Now, here's where things get extremely interesting. Okay? I may have only like 20% free will in this case here. However, so let's say, for example, that I'm really stressed that day, and whatever happens, you know, like whatever, I just end up deciding to fight the guy, and I get into a fight, and then I get beat up, and then I wake up, whatever, I wake up at the hospital, and I realize, what the hell did I do? This was a horrible decision. And then I start thinking about it. And this is where the video gets extremely interesting, because this is where I think I've never seen anyone really talk about this. I've never seen anyone position free will this way, but I think in practice, this is actually how free will works. Okay, this is where free will exists. Free will doesn't really exist very much, a little bit in the present, in that 1 second decision that you have in the present, as you're going by your life and things happen to you. someone asks you a question, someone walks up to you and says, want to fight. You're at a party and the girl walks up to you and wants to kiss you and lean in, whatever. As things are happening to you in real life, in the present, we don't have a lot of free will. We're just kind of going to react how we're going to react, and maybe we have like 10 to 20% of free will. And where free will exists, right, where free will really, really exists is in the retrospective, right, looking back at your actions and deciding how you want to act in the future. So this is where the Clash Royale example comes in, and a little bit like of a software example comes in. Okay, so don't worry if you don't know what Clash Royale is. Don't worry, you're still gonna understand this. So here's the thing. Here's the point that I want to make. I believe that we maybe have like 20% free will in that like split second decision. Okay, it's really not a lot. A lot of it's going to be instinctual and whatnot. On the like whatever, the decision that you have one day to decide, you're going to have maybe, you might have like around 40% or so. It's a little too big. Or like around 40% or so. Then a week, you might have like around 60% or so. And then 1 year, you may have like around 80% or so, for the sake of argument. So the free will chart is going to look something like this. The longer you have to kind of decide, the more free will we have. And we never really get to the 100% level of free will, because there's always going to be some genetic factors. There's always going to be some factors that we just can't really control. Certain trauma that is just too strong and it doesn't allow you to completely change the way you act, etc. Right? Now, here's again where the software example and the Clash Royale example come in. This is how this actually works, in my opinion. Basically, you here, okay, in this scenario here, what happens is your deck of cards is already decided. So in a game like Clash Royale, if you understand the way that Clash Royale is, you're going to get this. If not, here's just the basics of the game. Clash Royale is a game where you have like 8 cards that you can put on your deck. So it's like 8 characters things. So you can put a wizard, then a warrior, and an archer, whatever, right? You can decide which 8 cards you want to have, and then you select your cards that you want to use in the game. You can have like characters, and you can have spells and whatnot. So you pick your deck of 8 cards. Once you select your deck and you press start on the game, you're going to go in a match, a 1-to-1 match with someone else. And then you cannot change your deck. You're locked in. You're locked to that deck. And then whatever happens, happens during that match. Okay? And so here's how free will works, and here's how similar it is. I believe that free will is like you have your deck and it's set right now. Right at this second, you have your deck, your software, if you will. If you want to think about it as software, it's essentially like you have the code that defines who you are, and it's set. It's set in stone right now. Okay? And it's like your deck is ready in Clash Royale. And what happens is you're chilling, you're going by your day, something happens to you. So you're walking down the street and the guy walks up to you and says, yo, wanna fight? Now here's the thing, your software is already predefined. You can't really change your software in that moment in time. You don't have enough time to do it. And it's the same thing with the cards, right? Your deck is already set. And as you're going by your day, your deck is chilling. It's the same deck. It's there, right? But now it's not a deck of 8 cards. It's a deck of 4 billion cards. And each card is like a neuron pathway that you have reinforced throughout your life, right? But it's like a deck of reactions, right? And it's like if-else's. And so you're going by your day and your deck is static. It's there. It's defined. And as things happen to you, it's like people pressing the start match button. And so as I go down the street, the guy says, wanna fight? That's like the guy initiating an unskippable cutscene in a game, right? It's like he walks up to me and he presses start button. And then I'm in the match. And at that moment in time, I have a bit of free will, right? In the same way that like when you're in Clash Royale, you can still like play your deck, right? But the thing is, imagine it's like the longer the action is, the more decisions you can make. So for example, if it's a 1 second decision, this is like if you logged into a match, if you walked into a match of Clash Royale and all you have is the first, like the only thing you can do is you can put your one card down and you have 1 second to put a card down. So like the second the match starts, it's like 3, 2, 1, you get your cards and you need to play one card and that's it. And then whatever happens, like the match is over, right? It's like who has the most hit points at the end, right? So what happens there is like, in that case, if you could imagine in the match of Clash Royale, first of all, there's so much luck involved because you have all your cards in your deck, but then once the match starts, you only have like 4 of them. So it's like, fuck, I gotta choose between these 4 cards and there's a lot of luck there. And then a lot depends on what the guy is going to do. And if I act a little bit quicker than him, maybe he has time to react to my thing and then I put the wrong card down and then I'm fucked. And so in a situation like that, you can clearly see that there's so much luck and randomness. And like, what if I get the wrong 4 cards, right? And so this is like walking down the street when you're having a fantastic day and the guy walks up to you and says that, and then maybe you can react the way that you want. Or you had a horrible fight with your parents and you're walking down the street and the guy says want to fight, and then you lose your mind and fight the guy to the death, and then you end up in jail. You just got extremely unlucky, right? It was just the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So here's the thing, and here's what everyone gets wrong. They think, oh, I want to improve what I'm going to do. Right? I want to improve the way that I act in my life. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on the present. And they keep like trying to become better at making the decisions in the present time, if you know what I mean. So it's almost like people just go and like they have the like 1 second retrospective after something bad happens. And so it's like they get into the fight with the guy on the bad day. And then they go home and they think, God damn it, that was a stupid decision. And then they move on with their lives and they go like, hopefully next time I won't do that. And then they move on with their life. And then next time, when the guy, right, want to throw hands, the guy's like, okay, let's fight. Then they try in that moment to think, oh man, but like, should I fight? Should I not? And they try, and then they get punched in the face. And they go, fuck man, I always make the wrong decisions. Yeah, because you're going about it the wrong way. Okay? So here's how you should actually go about it. And here's what I've been doing that has really helped me change my life. It's understanding that the way that you work is you can set your deck beforehand, but you can't change your deck in the moment. Okay? When the guy puts his hands up, you're locked in to whatever your software is in that moment. Right? Your mental software, whatever your deck is at that moment, you're locked to that and you can't change it. And you're going to have to do whatever you can with your current cards that you have. So the way to go about your life is realizing that you shouldn't be focusing on trying to play better in the moment. That's not it. Like, ironically, that's not really what you should be focusing on. It's not about becoming a better player. It's about strategizing beforehand. So what you have to do is when the thing happens that you didn't want to happen, right? So whatever, you go about your day and then in the present, the guy puts hands up and says, want to fight? You fight the guy. Okay, you fought the guy. Now what you do is you go, okay, if I walked down the street again tomorrow, so tomorrow, right? I have 1 day to prep, 1 day in advance. I have 1 day to change. 1 day to update my deck, however you want to think about this, okay? 1 day to fix my software, whatever, right? If I walk down the street tomorrow, how would I want to react? And then your goal is to try to kind of like think about how you can update your software, how you can be better next time, and actually genuinely try to update the code. However, here's the thing. To update your code, you need to know what code is wrong in the first place, right? So in this case, the obvious thing is like, okay, why did I fight the guy, right? So maybe whatever. Maybe the thing that went wrong is that I froze. Okay, then I gotta work on freezing. Maybe the thing that went wrong is that I was very stressed. I had a bad fight, whatever, right? Like you can try to work on these things. These get a little more complicated because then you just end up talking about whether it was luck or not, and I was just in the wrong space of mind or whatever. That's complicated. But my point is, I think it becomes a little more easy to visualize if we change the example in this case. So imagine the example of the girl kissing you, okay, at a party. So in a case like that, the girl walks up to you, kisses you at a party, okay, leans in for the kiss, and then let's say, for the sake of argument, that you're actually in a relationship. You're in a serious relationship, and then the really beautiful girl, woman in the red dress, walks up to you, leans in for the kiss, and kisses you, okay? And you have like 1 second to decide. Now, in that case, you just had your predispositions, your software was set in stone in a way that like you just couldn't resist it, right? It was too overwhelming. Your if else, right? You were too reinforced to focus on the woman in the red dress, and then you just couldn't resist it. You end up kissing her. Okay, you go back home, whatever. You have a big fight with your girlfriend, whatever happens, you know what I mean? And then you just regret it, and you think like, God damn it, you know, I'm going to another party tomorrow, whatever, right? Going to another party tomorrow, and I cannot have this happen again. So the way that you would go about actually changing the way you act next time is by, you know, in retrospective, looking back at that and seeing what went wrong and what do I need to improve, what do I need to change in my code so that this doesn't happen next time. So instead of trying to focus, like a lot of people, they end up getting stuck in like, it's almost like wishing they played better, but they never change their deck. They never prepare. They never review game tape, right? So what you gotta do is, when the negative thing happens that you wish didn't happen, what you do is you gotta look back at that moment after the fact, right? Let's say you wake up next day and you gotta actually pause and think about it and genuinely try to analyze what went wrong. And so maybe it's the fact that like, I don't know, your relationship is not in the best place right now. And then, you know, you're just, for the last few weeks, you've been looking at a lot of women and you're wishing that you weren't in the relationship or whatever, and then whatever. Then the girl, right, leans in to kiss you, and then you just give in, right? Or maybe you were too drunk. And so that's actually a great example of something that you're able to change, right? It's like you look back and you go, damn, I was too drunk. I should not have drank as much. And so what I'm going to do is when I go to that party tomorrow, and someone, because like here's the thing that happens, like in the moment everything cascades, right? So it's like you're chilling, a friend offers a beer, or like you look at the bar and you just naturally walk to the bar, and like you don't have a lot of time to think. You're just at the party, you look at the bar, and you just your if else happens, right? It's like if at a party, see bar, buy beer, right? And that just happens naturally. And you're almost just like on autopilot going through that road, that path that's going to lead you to leave house, get to party, see bar, buy alcohol, get drunk, girl leans in for the kiss, and then I kiss her. I can't resist. So what you got to do is you got to start breaking these chains and realizing, where can I add a little bit more free will in advance, right? Where can I modify my code in advance, modify the deck in advance, so that when that moment happens in the present again, right? Because this is the thing, is that this is going to move here eventually, right? In 24 hours, this thing won't be 1 day away anymore. In 24 hours, this thing will be here. And then again, you will have lower free will. But it's just that like it's the free will in the moment. But the thing is, like, if you think about it this way, if we want to simplify it, it's like you have a few thirds. It's almost like this, right? It's like your decisions are made like this. Imagine there's like a circle, and it's like a little bit of a pie chart. So it's like, let's say it's like in fourths, for example, just for the sake of argument. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just to illustrate the point. It's like some of that is just going to be like luck of the moment, right? It's like what happened to you in the last hour, whatever. Your girlfriend happens to call you and break up with you, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like random stuff is going to happen. The weather changes how you drive or whatever, right? Then there's going to be like genetics. Then there's going to be like actual free will, right? So your conscious decision in the moment. And then there's going to be basically your software, right? Something like this. Now, I believe that it isn't as much like this. I think it's actually, genetics is a lot smaller than people think, a lot smaller. Luck is also a lot smaller than people think. Your free will in the moment is actually quite small. So in practice, I think the graph looks a little bit more like this, where it's like the software is probably like around maybe half or more, maybe something like this. Jesus Christ. Maybe it's something like this, where like this is actually your software, and it's like 2/3 of your decision or something like that. And then you have, genetics, luck, and your free will in the moment. Maybe your free will in the moment is even smaller than that. Okay? So now here's what you can do. You can modify your software in advance, and so that when you come into the present here in this action, right, then you can change the outcome. So for example, I kissed the girl, whatever, let's say this is Monday, right? So I went to a party. That makes no sense. Let's just say this is Friday. I went to a party on Friday. The girl leaned in for the kiss. I was drunk. I kissed the girl. Okay, cool. Then I regret that. Where can I add more free will? Right. In one day, dude, it's going to be really hard to change the like super deep things of my psyche, because the software is even more complicated. Why did I destroy the graphic like this? Whatever. Can I just delete this? Okay, cool. So the software is actually kind of complicated because it's a little bit like an iceberg. So it's like this, okay? It's like a little bit of like a trapezoid thing, where these are like the surface things. These are like the deep things. Deep, what the hell? So like deep things, whatever, mid-depth, very creative. And then surface things, okay? So the surface things of your software can be changed relatively quickly. I don't know, give or take a few days, maybe. Sometimes even quicker than that. You might be able to change the surface things. The deep things, dude, these are deep rooted in you, and it might take you several years, or you may not even ever be able to change that. So for example, these are like your values, right? So it's like you really have a very strong sense of justice. And then it's something like, if I was walking down the street and I saw a guy assault an old woman, like an old lady, like a lot of how I'm going to act is going to be due to this like very deep layer of my software. There's like the very deep values that I have, okay? The mid-depth, I don't know, it may be something like skills in general, or like beliefs. I would say probably something like that. I guess it could be basically like this. The very deep ones are like your values. The mid ones are like your beliefs. And then the surface ones are like your skills. And that's generally going to be good enough. Okay, everything can kind of fit into here pretty easily. So basically, the way that this is going to work is like you can change skills pretty fast, honestly. So it's like you can learn to like, I don't know, learn a little more emotional control or something like that. Beliefs is like whether you believe you're a loser or something like that, or whether like it's just, it can be like your limiting beliefs. You believe that you're autistic, for example, and you believe that you're just like, man, I'm just bad at social things and I'm just very autistic and like whatever. And you never even got diagnosed or anything like that, but you just believe that you're super autistic and that you're horrible at social interactions. And so you find out that tomorrow you're going to do a massive public speaking thing. It's going to be very hard for you to change that belief in one day, right? And change your belief to like believing that you're a very confident person. You could maybe change that if something big happened and you found out that you're actually a very confident person, but it's going to be hard to change your beliefs in one day. You're going to need a little bit of time, usually at least a month or so. Your values are going to need at least a year. So I would say it's something like this. Your values are going to need a year, 1 year plus to change, probably. Your beliefs, you're going to need probably, 1 month plus, maybe a week if you're very high agency. And then your skills, I don't know, 1 to 7 days, something like that, whatever, something like that, okay? Now, the thing is, this is a big part of your software, of how your software works. And it's the reason why you have a lot more agency, a lot more free will in the long term, right? Because in the long term, you can change a lot more of your software. So if you only have 1 day to plan like this, right? Like you went to the party and you kissed the girl on Friday, and then you have another party tomorrow on Saturday, you have 1 day to change, right? And you can change certain things. You can try to practice in front of the mirror and be like, okay, if a girl leans in, I push her away. If a girl leans in, I push her away. And you can kind of like do something like that. And you can try to make a very conscious decision to put an alarm before the party to be like, do not drink today. Remember what happened. You can like develop some kind of mantra or something to whatever, right? You can write down on your hand, like, remember what happened or whatever, right? Like you can try to like do something. But realistically, it's going to be kind of hard to change your values or change your beliefs. And even like certain skills you might be able to adjust. These could be like social skills or whatever, or like, for example, just becoming a little more assertive. That's a skill, right? Learning to be a little more assertive, learning how to say no more effectively. So that's something that you could maybe learn in a few days, but especially with like a therapy session or something like that, right? But it's going to be hard. You're not going to have that much agency here, right? In an ideal world, what you should probably do is cancel this party, right? And then maybe cancel even the party next week and wait a bit and maybe go to a party like a month from now once you have a little more time to adjust your software, adjust your if-else's, your algorithm, adjust your deck. Okay. So yeah, so this is basically how I think about free will and how it's one of the big ways I've really started to be able to take more control of my life again. It's realizing that it's kind of pointless to try to change things here and even here, right? What you should be doing is looking back at the negative things that have happened in your life and starting to think about it as like, how can I adjust my software, right? How can I adjust my software so that the same thing doesn't happen again in the future, right? And the longer your time horizon is, the more you can adjust. So let me give you an example. I used to be someone with very little discipline. And it took me like 3 years to adjust that, right? 3 to 4 years, honestly, probably a lot more than that. But it really took me a few years to become a lot more disciplined. And it was a lot of like trying to get myself to change very slowly, like listening to lectures, listening to Jordan Peterson, to Dr. K, to like Alex Hormozy, like a bunch of other people that have really, really helped me. But it can take a very long time to do that because it's like every day I'm changing like one line of code on my software, right? Every day I'm changing like one line of code and then one line of code and then one line of code. And that happens when it's like in the little moments when you're thinking about the future and planning ahead and going, okay, next time this little thing happens, how do I want to react? And then I go, I would prefer to react a little bit differently. So, oh, damn, I was at the gym today and a pretty girl said hi to me. I fumbled it. I reacted like a dumbass. Okay, next time this happens, I want to react a little differently like this. And ideally, you're giving yourself very specific instructions. Like you're saying like, okay, next time the girl says hi, what do I say? I should say hi back, and then I should whatever, ask her name, right? And you give yourself very specific instructions. And it's like you're literally trying to adjust your if else thing, because the girl said hi to me and I fumbled it. And I just looked at her and I walked away. Okay, then there's literally like, there's kind of like an if else in a sense. There's like an if else condition. There's like an algorithm in my brain that is like, if pretty girl says hi, I freeze. Okay, I need to change that, right? And part of it may be genetics. Part of it may be luck of how I was feeling that day. Or whatever, right? Maybe I just didn't hear her correctly because I was listening to music, right? There's always, this stuff is always going to be the case. But there's also a lot of it that is the software. Like I said, most of it is the software in my opinion. And so the way to actually change that is to adjust your skills, beliefs, and values. So for example, the value not as applicable in this case, but belief is like, I am a loser. Therefore, if I say hi to the girl, I have this belief in me that because I'm a loser, if I say hi to the girl, she's going to humiliate me. And so she said hi, she must have thought I'm someone else. There's no way this is actually real. Therefore, if I say hi back, she's going to humiliate me because clearly I'm such a loser that she couldn't possibly have meant it. Whoa, if I realize, right? And so it's like when I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I really fumbled that. What happened? That's where you start thinking about it and you're like, well, I reacted like that, but like, okay, I froze, sure, but why did I freeze? And you start investigating it. Ideally, you have someone else that you can talk to, maybe a therapist, maybe a friend, maybe someone else, who knows? But ideally, you have someone else that you can talk to. I like talking a lot to myself and going through these things, but maybe you're not as autistic as I am. And maybe, I don't know, you have more friends and you can talk to your friends and go through these things and challenge your own limiting beliefs. Because you might go through that and realize, oh my God, the reason I froze is because like when I was a kid, I was bullied and I got this idea ingrained in my head that I'm a loser. And so if I reply to the girl, she's going to humiliate me, blah, 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 blah. And you realize that and you go like, oh my God, it's a belief thing that I need to change. That can take a while, right? Because even if you realize that you need to change the belief, it's not as simple. You can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to change it now. It takes a while of working on it, right? And this is also part of the free will conversation. It is, you can't change your software immediately. In the same way that like, if a software developer at Facebook realizes, oh my God, the app sucks, he can't rewrite the entire app in a day. It's not how this works. First of all, the app would break, right? You can't just delete the entire code base. It takes a long time to rewrite the app. And it's the exact same thing here. Your brain is like live, right? It exists, it's alive right now. And you can't delete your entire code base. You would like go into a coma. You can't do that, right? For obvious reasons. So you're gonna have to change it slowly. And it's almost like you gotta pick one little thing at a time to work on. And my recommendation is literally treat these things like practicing, right? So it's like, try to think about it every day. And so if you have a belief that you believe you need to change, like, oh, I believe that I'm a loser. Okay, well, what skills could I gain that would give me more confidence, right? What things could I do that would change that belief? So like, I don't know, maybe I could try to win at something. I could do something. I could do more things that I'm good at. Is there anything that I'm good at? Oh, I used to be good at whatever, baseball. Maybe I can go practicing baseball every weekend by myself and I'm going to feel a little bit better about myself. Who the hell knows, right? There's a million ways that you can do these things. But my point is, this, in my opinion, is how you drastically increase your agency and increase your free will. It's by realizing that yes, you do have like just like free will, that is like the conscious thoughts that you have in the moment, But my point is the way you actually do more of what you want to do, right? So let's say that I want to go from a hot girl says hi in public. I have all my issues, right? That are causing me to act the way that I act. And so hot girl said hi in public. I fumble. Okay? This is what I do right now is I fumble hardcore. If a hot girl walked up to me today, I would just fumble it completely. I want to go from that happening right now. If it happened today, if it happened right now, that's what I would do. So I want to go from that to a hot girl talks to me a year from now. I have a year to change my software, to recode my brain, to change my deck, right? And so I want to go from that to hot girl says hi to me, and I react like Juan from That Was Epic, right? If you get the reference, congratulations. But I react very smoothly, and I'm able to talk to her very smoothly, and I'm able to like hopefully whatever get her number and book a date or whatever, right? And I have a year to adjust my software, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look back at my fumble, and with the benefit of retrospection, analyze what I did wrong and think, where can I add more agency in that process, right? So remember that party thing that I was saying? I decide to go to the party in the first place. That's a decision, right? Should I be going to parties when I'm dating someone? I don't know. That's a decision that you can try to make, right? So it's like, I go to the party, I look at the bar, I naturally grab a drink. Okay, maybe that's the problem, right? Maybe the problem, like, it's like, where in that journey do you think is going to be easier for you to change your actions? So like, yes, the issue was that the girl leaned in and I kissed her or whatever. The girl leaned in for the kiss and I took the kiss, but I'm whatever, married, right? So yeah, that's the issue in a sense, but the issue isn't necessarily on that specific step. The issue could be a lot earlier in the action, right? It's like, is the issue that I wasn't able to say no? Maybe I just need to be more assertive. Maybe I was afraid that if I said no, she would cause a scene. And so maybe I need to be more courageous. Who knows, right? Maybe the issue is on that step, but maybe the issue is that I was just too drunk. And so maybe I just need to drink less. But maybe the issue is that I am an alcoholic. And so if I see a bar at a party, I will take the drink and I just can't control myself. So maybe my issue is that I need to work on that. Or maybe I can't go to parties where there's a drink. Maybe I shouldn't go to parties alone, right? Like whatever it is, but it's realizing like, I want to change my actions. You don't do that by I'm just going to be better next time. That's fucking stupid. You're not. You're just going to make the same mistake again, right? What you need to do is look back at what happened, find where you can adjust your code, where you can increase your agency, and then start making little changes every day, ideally actually practicing things, like breaking it down to real skills and things that you can practice, so that you can actually change your software and eventually significantly increase your agency and basically do the things that you actually want to do when the time comes. All right. And this was a very long video. If you're still watching, my God, congratulations, dude. You're going to win at life. I appreciate you. And all right, I really hope this helps. This has really, really helped me and has really helped me change my life for the better. And I hope it helped you as much as it did me. All right, take care. Bye-bye.